Hello everyone, and today I will show you all on how to bake normal map using a manual gauge. This tutorial will also include on how to properly shade our objects, where to place seams for UV unwrap, how to set up a manual gauge, and of course the baking process. And in the end, I will share some tips on how to solve problems. So to bake normal maps, we need a high poly object and a low poly object. As you can see, I already have my high poly and my low poly. So this right here is my low poly object. Okay, and right here I have my high poly object. Now this is the same low poly object. The only difference is that I have duplicated my low poly and added extra details and subdivided it. So to transfer uh, these details of the high poly to the low poly without adding extra geometry, we use normal maps. Okay, now before we go for normal map baking, we need to make sure that our low poly mesh or object is shaded properly. And for that, uh, we normally use shade auto smooth. But since I had already applied that before this video, it's gonna cause no difference. But make sure to use that. Now we never use shade smooth for low poly objects since it will cause a lot of shading errors like this one. The next step is to make sure that your low poly object is properly UV unwrapped. And as you can see, I already did that by marking all the important edges as seams. Okay, now one more thing. Um, your auto smooth will mark edges as sharp. So make sure you always mark those edges with seams as well. And these right here are my UV islands. Try to keep space in between them and make sure they're not too close to the borders. So the last thing you need to do is to create a cage which should surround both your high poly and your low poly object. And to do that, I'm just going to create a duplicate of my low poly. Then I will rename it to cage. And now you just have to make it surround both of your objects. So the best way to do that is to use the displace modifier. Then and then you just have to adjust this so that your cage covers both of your objects. And I think that should be fine. Now apply the displace modifier. Now you may actually need to make some minor adjustments. This is actually caused by the displace modifier, but can be easily fixed. Just make sure that your cage matches your low poly as close as possible. Okay, since everything is done, now we just need an image to store our bake. So to do that, I'm just going to slide this, change this to shader editor, and then I will click my low poly and add a material to it. Now I will shift A and add an image texture. Then click new, and now this is our image. And we can just give it a name. The size can remain the same. We don't need alpha. And now this 32-bit float, what it actually does is that it will give a more higher quality bake, but it also needs more time, and so I will not be using it. Okay, now change this color space to non-color since we are baking normals. Okay, so now it's time to bake. So we go to the render tab, change the engine to cycles, and then under this render we change max samples to something lower, like 128, since we are baking, we are not rendering. Okay, then you scroll down, go to bake, and change the bake type from combined to normal, since we want to bake normals. Next, click select it to active, click here and click on cage. Now just click on this and select the cage that we had created. The rest can remain the same. Now it's time to bake. Now what I will do is that I will select my high poly. And then by holding left control I will select my low poly. Now the details will be transferred from the selected one, which is our high poly, to the active one, which is our low poly. This is what the words selected to active means. Now we just have to click on our image and then click bake. Okay, so the baking is done and it's stored in this image. So to see the result, I will just turn on viewport shading, and since this is a normal map, I will add a normal map node, then connect them, and here is the result. To see it more better, I think I will increase the metallic value. Okay, now let's just compare it. So this is our low poly and this is our high poly. And it looks good. So now when working with normal maps and round objects, you will get this. Now this isn't a problem, but let's just say that you want to fix this. And yes, the reason why this happens is because our high poly object is more rounder than the low poly one because of subdivision, as you can see. our low poly doesn't completely uh, doesn't completely match the high poly, and this usually happens on round surfaces, and the same can also be said about the backside. On the backside, as you can see, the shading of our high poly went from here to here because our geometry did not match. Now, once again, this isn't a problem, but if you want to fix this, you can change the UVs. Okay, so you can just select all these and scale them in. And remember not to do it too much. And it, I think it's been fixed. But still, this wasn't a problem. And for the back side, you can just move them down a bit. So this is one way in which you can fix uh, fix problems if you encounter any. But like I said, this wasn't a problem. Okay, so to summarize it, uh, to get an accurate normal maps, you first of all need to make sure that your shading is correct, and second of all, you need to make sure that your low poly mesh is properly UV unwrapped, and and that you have seams over sharp corners, especially those that were marked by the auto smooth. And the third is to use a manual gauge. That's something that I will mostly recommend. So that's all for today. If you like the way I'm teaching, you can check the links below for registration, accessing study materials, or to view my profile. And I guess that's it. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos and playlists.